Okay.
Okay, we live?
We're live.
Monochrome Mondays.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Happy to be here in the chat with all you guys. Make sure you guys throw the questions in. We're going to be going for about an hour here. Talking about, what are we talking about today?
Talk a little 2025, maybe.
Oh, our recaps.
Little 2026, what we're looking at.
So much shit has happened in 2025, man. This year has been truly just... I'm going to look back on 2025 as one of my most stressful years ever, but definitely a year where I feel like something, like a chapter closed in the business, and not only the business, but in my work also, and something new is starting. Like, I really feel like that. I can't actually wait. This is a good topic because I can't wait to go into all the shit that's happened in 2025, but it really like tested me, man. Like this year in terms of like the workload, like how I really thought about shooting, the level of quality that I wanted to bring to my clients, and just like the demands of the clients.
Right.
It just increased so much this year. And, you know, as we were talking about last time, it really had a lot to do with, I think it has a lot to do with the quality of the client. I don't want to say quality like, you know, before they were shitty clients.
Right.
But now that they're paying more, the expectations are higher.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think that there was like a time, maybe 2022 to 2024, where it felt really, it was easy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like things were kind of coasting.
Yeah. Caught myself.
I really didn't do like any marketing, honestly, from like, I did a lot of marketing in the beginning of the business. And then from like 2022 to 2024, really just kind of coasted, man. And I was in this locked in level with these clients that were getting heavy referrals. So they already knew us. There's already trust built. There was already like this, they were super, they felt like special that they had booked with us.
Right.
And so like, it was pretty easy. But last year, it was like the first year where I felt like, oh my God, like I have like a standard that I have to like live up to. And it was more like infusing the thought about the quality of the business alongside the quality of the work.
Right.
So it put a shitload of pressure on me.
On top of the quality of the experience you're delivering to. So
For real, yeah.
it's a lot.
How'd your 2025 go?
I can't complain. You know, I feel like I'm coasting. You know, I know I can work harder.
Did you feel pressure though? Were there any like major pressure points for 2025?
Some of the live events are always just, you know, they're just long days, like 16-hour days sometimes, you know, like 7 a.m. to 10, 11 p.m., like, you know, and later sometimes. So, and with no breaks, like no time to eat. There's like, you know, when everyone else gets to go shower, I'm making a production for the event that's going to play in an hour, you know, like the second half of the, so.
John's stanking by the end.
Yeah. Oh, you wouldn't believe. Yeah.
Photographers aren't allowed to take a shower.
No. Well, yeah, no, I'm not going to say them right now. Yeah, no. So I mean, I feel like I've been coasting, you know, to your point where you felt a few years ago. I feel like I've been letting all the work I've done sort of take care of itself, and I haven't been pushing any marketing. I really don't even want new clients. I'm sort of happy with where I'm at.
Did you spend any money on marketing in 2025?
None.
Zero.
Yep.
And were you more profitable in 2025 than you were in 2024?
Yes. Yeah.
That's great.
It's work picking up with the consistent clients. And, you know, just every year sort of adding one or two new events that you're hoping are annual events. So you kind of just have repeat, you know, like we talked last time, I really like working with people more than once. It like really is something I enjoy to grow with them. So
residual business.
Yeah. So, and, you know, if you get, you know, if I was doing 20 big conventions a year and they were all kind of annual things, I wouldn't have to look for work at all. That eliminates all the time that you're spending on marketing and all that other stuff that, you know, I should be doing, but I don't feel like I don't want to grow into a huge production company. I'm comfortable being like a 1, 2, 3 man operation and just sort of.
Well, yeah, I mean, especially if you're not eating up any of your profit in marketing dollars. Like that's a huge, if you're not, I didn't know that you spent zero on marketing.
Yeah.
That's really, really freaking good, actually, because I've recognized in the beginning, I thought that I could just kind of roll off of my referral trees from you know, like, you know, past clients, and I could, but what I realized is if I want to ascend the levels of the business, okay, I want to break up into higher markets. I want to start to work with bigger vendor teams. I want to start to just, you know, get more design involved in the weddings, you know, bigger budgets and things like that. I have to plant new referral trees.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know, and so like, you know, the clients in the past have been awesome. Really, I mean, hundreds of weddings. I've probably only had maybe like 3 or 4 clients that were considered probably problem clients, which is amazing ratio.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like, I could have stayed in that, but the thing is all those weddings are the same. They're really kind of like coming from. Rarely are you going to get somebody who's having like a $30,000 budget wedding who gets your information and wants to hire you for their wedding that's got like a $250,000 budget. So those referrals kind of stay in this like kind of siloed wedding event level.
Right.
So if I want to break up into that like next level, marketing dollars have to be put behind. So I actually spent the most I've ever spent on marketing this year.
And 2026 is looking like that paid off, or were those more so trying to get 2027 bookings? Or?
So right now I'm on track to make about the same amount of dollars, but the booking prices were higher. So I'm at a higher level of wedding.
So you're doing less weddings and making the same amount of money?
Right now, but I'm right now at 2020, where I stand for 2026 work, I have 21 weddings booked. Okay. But those are honestly, the average price is about 30% higher than my bookings for 2024.
Right.
I'm sorry, for 2025.
Yeah. So the goal is to work if you can work less and make more money, that's obviously a win.
Right. But I did throw a lot of marketing dollars behind that. So I'd say I'm basically like kind of break even with last year's profit. But the thing is I'm not done booking yet.
Right.
You know, so like if I stopped right here, like, yeah, I'd be doing less work for essentially the same money I made last year. But, you know, I'm definitely going to get bookings rolling in.
Yeah, you're in better shape is I guess what I was trying to say.
I'm in better shape, yeah. But there are more associated costs, like, you know, so let's get into it. Like one of the biggest things for me for 2025 was the fact that Sarah is no longer in Perla. Okay, she's not involved with it anymore. Obviously, you know that. We've had many conversations about it, but
have you told your channel that yet?
I have not told. So this is breaking news on the Monochrome memoirs. Yeah. So yeah, Sarah is no longer. We're no longer shooting together, which is, you know, it's that was a massive change. Okay, so for a few different reasons. So how it's normally, or since Perla started, how it was I was really the creative force behind it. Okay, like I was really the one that was my kind of vision, you know. She got excited about it too in the beginning, but it was my vision. Like I always wanted to be a professional photographer. I always wanted to do weddings at a high level. And I really was able, because there were two people, she was able to be like kind of the forward facing one in terms of like timelines, getting brides, you know, communicating for the organization of the weddings, stuff like that. So I kind of was able to be in the background and be like, okay, what type of cameras do we want to shoot with? What lenses do we want to use this year? What type of look, you know, how's our editing going? Like, and when we were on site, like I was kind of the one that was coming up with like, you know, the ideas for the portraits and like, you know, what type of light we were going to use and all that. So it was really kind of a blessing to be able to start the business like that because I had so much creative flexibility because Sarah was handling that forward facing part of it. But now she lost the fire for weddings. She just wanted to go back to her passion, which was gymnastics. And that I can't shoot alone. You know, I just can't shoot alone. Like I don't, some photographers do it. I don't really understand how you'd want to do a whole wedding day by yourself. And I did a few by myself. Totally went fine, you know, and I smashed the weddings. They were great, but it was more stressful. So, you know, it's not as fun because you don't get to communicate and like bounce ideas off of as you're going. And so I was like, okay, I need to find an assistant like immediately, you know? So I did find an assistant, Amelia. She's awesome. She's great. And I got her basically shooting with me from end of August up until now. And so she's been a photographer, but, you know, just kind of building her little thing, her brand. She's starting and still learning. But now she's on with me. And she's going to be on all my 2026 weddings. We're going to take it on a year-by-year process. But that's a significant investment too.
Yeah.
Amelia's got to get paid.
Right.
And bringing her up to speed on, she's one thing with her she's really, really good with is, and that Sarah was not good with, was when I'm going to light something, she kind of intuitively knows where I want the light to hit on the subject, which is like worth her weight in gold, honestly. I don't have to really tell her like, hey, shift it or point it here or that. I kind of give her a light and I'm like, I want to light that thing. And she kind of just knows. And so that's a huge, huge deal. We work well together. So yeah, I mean, it's been a significant change, man, because now, like having the brand as a husband and wife thing when you're starting is like, that's a big advantage,
right?
For weddings. And also kind of having that flow and dynamic to where I've got to kind of get in the driver's seat with the timelines and the management and the organization on top of the creative stuff and making sure that that still rolls on, because that's what, people are ultimately hiring me for, is that creative stuff.
Right.
So it's been a wild ride, man. So you've seen the stress of it.
Yeah. So yeah, I've been there for a few years now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine, dude. It's a lot they're long days. I don't want to do them alone either. I've shot a lot of videos like by myself, and yeah, it's just not nearly as fun.
It's really not, man.
But I was going to ask you something about 2025 too. Yeah, so I guess what did you learn from all that? It's like, what's the takeaway? What are we going into 2026 with that maybe we didn't have in 2025?
Fucking great question, because I guess like I've also spent a lot of time this year like reflecting.
Right.
And just thinking about like, yeah, what did I learn? Like, because I feel changed. Like I feel like a much better photographer now, because I went through this period of having to like face the parts where, I need to improve. And it's really kind of strengthened me in some areas that were like, I really didn't think that I would have to face, in my business, So I learned that the main thing I learned was that nothing is ever static, and nothing will ever just be at a point where you can just set it and forget it.
Right. I don't think you want that either. I don't think anyone, as much as it sounds,
but you do
great,
kind of want
it sounds good, right? Yeah. But it's like, still water's poisonous for a reason. You know what I mean? It's
so true.
It's just the way it is. Like if you're not, I feel like we were just talking about how I feel like I've been coasting. I kind of just use like my small little personal projects in between client work to feel like I'm growing, like try new things and just like at least like editing things that I'm learning, or, stuff that I'm not ready to show the world, but I'm like, I can still feel like I'm growing versus constantly.
So you don't really use your paid like business work to like
Experiment.
drive like the feeling that you're doing something different. You use your personal work for that?
Yeah, right now, I'd say this past year, that's sort of where it's been. And going into this 2026, I'm looking forward to like doing this stuff and building this channel and, seeing what we come up with for like BTS stuff and, kind of focusing more on like me and us and stuff rather than
and the stuff we've learned.
Yeah. So that's sort of my goal for this year. So no, to answer your question, I don't really experiment too much with, a lot of this. They need this first, like if I'm rebranding a website, they need certain deliverables, very specific ones. And if I get crazy, I just feel like I'm taking a risk that I guess I don't need to take. Like,
that's interesting because I think you and I have different viewpoints on like what we do for like work then, right? Because so do you feel, or for me, my photography, I sort of feel like, or I do feel like the Perla brand is like my like legacy to the world. Right. It's like I really feel a sense of like personal legacy with the brand, and that I need to make sure that Perla achieves a certain amount of like a certain quality and level of work and exposure of that work before I die.
Understood, 100%. We do differ in this way because in my brain, I try to compartmentalize work and art almost. Like, not that the work isn't art, but like I have like my vision of where I would be best case scenario as an artist. And then I find that what I've sort of built over here is not the path to get to where I'm trying to get. It's like, this is paying my bills and I'm good at it and I have fun doing it. And
so
I love
it's more
shooting.
of just a revenue stream.
Yeah, but it's like the love and passion for it all is just over here. It's still the same art. It's, you know what I mean? It's just like, it's like just having fun, like social, like I guess like the stupid little videos I make on social media of like me just out with my girl and her daughter or something, is like,
They're always
those
fire,
are my
too.
like outlet of like, oh, this is like just experiment. No one cares. It doesn't mean anything. Like whether so I just don't feel like me doing like a ton of commercial work for like construction companies and, large scale events is like my way to get a photo project in a museum. You know what I mean? It's like, that's where like the end goal is like, let's do something like that. That's like, completely, creative. Like you have complete creative control, but also a shitload of people are going to see it.
Gotcha.
So I think that's where like we all want to be, but I just don't find like the risk is worth the reward if I'm doing like a,
it depends on the
like,
project.
right.
I guess I am more
certain
like,
things though. I'm like that, but for sure I'm more so I compartmentalize like my art and my passion over here, and then like the work over here. But we're different because I carry a camera pretty much everywhere, and I always like whether I use it or not.
Okay.
I always bring it, but I feel like we had this conversation where you were saying like, you don't, and I agree to this too. Like you don't want to freaking hold a camera after a long day of shooting, working. You know what I mean?
But the reason is because I have, so my work, my Perla work, right? That is really that's my creative outlet.
Right.
Because you and I are different in terms of like the markets we serve. Like, yeah, you do weddings for sure, but like your main bread and butter is commercial work, which relies on like this standard of style that's already set in. These people are expecting.
Or their brand style. Maybe not across the board, but like they have their own expectations.
Yeah, and they put you on the payroll. So it's like you kind of got to deliver the same thing.
Right. That's how I feel.
In perpetuity.
I do think I could go crazier and more artistic and do exactly what you're kind of saying and get away with it. I don't think anyone would really have a problem with it. I think it's a hurdle like up here that I've never gotten over.
Well, maybe because like you, in order to actually feel like a sense of meaning from it, you would have to go really far, and that might go too far out of it.
So I've had these conversations with, again, back to the construction stuff that I sort of, do a couple times a week, quick shoots here and there. I'd love to get crazy with some of that stuff. I was in a basement they were refinishing and it was dark, and I started playing with some shutter drags and I sent them to my buddy who owns the company, and he's like, let's just
let's chill. I mean, like, it looks good.
Right.
I'm not gonna lie.
So I knew enough not to even post them without, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But and he reacted exactly how I assumed he would.
Yeah.
Like we're not in a nightclub, but so I know that that's not for that, right? But there are plenty of other
but that's why
jobs that I could be doing that with.
That's why we have the difference of like, I never really carry I do carry sometimes, like I got a point and shoot in my car, film point and shoot. And then I take a lot of pictures with my iPhone, but I don't carry my work camera. I don't carry my Z8 like when I'm out.
I don't carry my Canons either. They're too big.
But it's even like, but you carry your Leica.
Yeah,
you know what I
it's
mean?
Small, but just like a point and shoot. Just an expensive point and shoot.
That's what I mean. But like, you're always ready to compose photos on like through a viewfinder or through like an LCD or something. That's not just a phone.
If I don't have a camera with me, I don't. Obviously, you can train yourself too, but I don't find myself looking at things the same.
That's what I'm saying. And so you're like almost like once your work cameras turn off, then you're searching for that. Okay, where can I start to like pull on my creative style?
Right.
So that means you're gonna have a camera with you all the time. Me, it's like I'm pushing the creative boundaries every freaking weekend at work because it's just the industry, the nature of the industry. They want me to do that.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I feel almost like I need to get away from a camera, like when I'm not working.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, we had this conversation before, I think, where like, if a lot of times when I travel, I'll take an extra day, 2, maybe sometimes 3 days. And generally the cameras stay in the hotel because I just worked for 3 days. And like, even if I'm in a foreign area, which like is everyone street photographer's dream is like, or whatever, like you said, I just don't feel like carrying it around anymore. I don't feel like worrying about it. I don't feel like, because I'm a big leave shit here, leave shit there type of guy. So if I don't even like, if I have the camera, there's a level of like, oh, just make sure I don't fucking leave it at the restaurant or cafe I'm going to or what, what I mean?
Leave it at a wedding like I did.
Dude, I left. Yeah. Will left. Just one camera? Was it 2?
It was just one, but still. Bro.
I left one in a nightclub in Midtown Manhattan.
Dude, this is what I'm saying, man. It's like, it's when work's over, I just kind of want to get away from it.
Yeah.
But I in terms of 2025, like, in terms of like the work, right? Like, if I'm looking back over what I really did, like, I definitely saw a massive improvement in the quality of the images that I was shooting.
Yep.
And the ability to do, like, to infuse more elements into every photo shoot, right? So I really started shooting a lot of slow shutter speed when it was calling for it,
Yep.
right? So I was like looking ahead, like at parts of the wedding and on site thinking about, okay, like what element do I need to bring here? Does this need to be all in focus, or can I, get a little bit of motion blur, or can I use lighting in a different way? I did a lot of on-camera flash, but also a lot of off-camera flash too.
Yep.
I really looked at my galleries from this year, and I was like, okay, like now there's a lot more supporting elements for each scenario that was happening. Before it was really just more composition, creative lighting,
Yep.
and everything was kind of like the difference was in the lighting, really, on all my galleries throughout the day. Now I'm experimenting more with like deep apertures. I'm experimenting more with like multiple light sources. So not just shooting something backlit, but also throwing a flash,
Right.
and filling in shadows and things like that where it comes, when it's calling for it. So I really was proud of myself for, even though there were so many changes taking place in terms of like getting Sarah out of the business, training Amelia, taking over the timelines and more forward facing, marketing, all that stuff. Like I also went back to the work, and I also started to look at it from a perspective of how can I like elevate this? And I really, really did, man. The thing that I'd say is my biggest gap right now, and the thing I need to improve on for 2026, is my editing. So my editing is, I would say it's definitely good, but I'd say it's a step behind my composition, my ability to light something.
Right.
So like that, because I'm noticing, I'm sure you're noticing too, a lot of like kind of really siloed editing styles now. Like things are kind of like, I don't want to say extreme, like they're like way out there, but they're extreme in the fact of like, they're going to the HSL sliders and they're taking out 100% of some colors.
Right.
It's very like monochromatic type editing now.
I think you have this oversaturation of digital images that all look the same, and everyone's using Lightroom or Capture One. Like, you know what I mean? Like some sort of like 2 or 3 different softwares. We're all using the same thing. I think it's the way to be different, is like people like we're starting to, just as a whole, I got to step out of like, how do I separate myself from, this person and some of it's over edited, some of it's too much, some of it, but I like
it's
the
inspiring.
experimentation. Yeah.
Yes.
I think the lack of color, I mean, you don't really want a shit ton of colors in your image. Like it's confusing. Like the ones that are relevant to this, they have the 60-30-10 rule is like the classic that everyone goes, that, filmmaking uses. I'm sure everyone in photography uses it too, but you really have 3 colors. That's all you really need. You know, your primary color that's filling most of the space, your subject, and something that makes it pop. So I'm a fan of desaturating a lot of greens, a lot of oranges and stuff like that.
Blues.
And
I've been taking down the blues a lot.
So for a different reason, we have this this view on blue light that I like can't shake. That I'm just like, I hate it in my images, I hate it in everything. I'm like, don't like it anymore.
It depends. It's funny you say that, because my natural instinct is always go in the HSL and pull down the blues.
Mm-hmm.
But I've noticed like that last wedding we shot together, we were just talking about, we're right on the beach at Pelham House down in Cape Cod. It's called for. It's blue freaking everywhere.
It was a nice day, nice skies. Yeah,
exactly. There's a lot of reflections off like the glass. There's a ton of blue in there because the glass is facing the water and stuff. So you're, but I do like how people are really experimenting with editing styles and more monochromatic, because it allows a differentiation for sure, but it also pushes the boundaries of I feel like weddings they're trending towards a place where, as long as you're making something people look good, you can really go wild.
Right.
Not only with your compositions, but with your editing too. And you can make it if you're good and you have good, this is what's going to separate people in the age of AI. This is going to separate people, is the taste.
Right.
You're not just going to blast up a color or completely remove a color just to do it. You have to have a sense of why it looks good.
Right.
And if you do, dude, it's kind of open season for to bring something different,
Yeah, it's true. We have a whole lot more tools now, and it is more coming down to the creativity than anything, because anyone can afford the gear now. Anyone can, it's really coming down to what are you doing with it? Whether that's AI tools or whether that's, just gear in general or, which,
So,
go ahead.
well, like, so in terms of staying on the topic of editing, like, do you feel like you're going to switch anything up in 2026 going forward? Because I really do feel like I'm not going to completely go. I like with weddings, I do like the basis is the natural, like what was there. You know what I mean? And then building off that. But I am going to start to experiment more with more removing colors from.
So you mean like more true to life?
True to life, but
like color quality, right? Like that's
exactly.
what you're talking about,
That's
like more true to life colors.
Yes, and that's the base. But I definitely want to start looking at scenes from a wedding, and then, like you said, like assessing, like, okay, what's the dominant color here that I'm going for, and what do I want to show, and then kind of like tamping down a lot of the other colors.
Right, right. Because you don't want. I mean, the morning should be more blue than the golden hour. You know what I mean? If you're editing everything to be perfectly true to, or whatever, like you want your whites perfectly white and your white balancing for that, everything's gonna look the same throughout the entire duration of the day. I like you let things be blue in the morning, let things be a little orangey at night, especially on the dance floor and things like that.
And then stripping away, but you have the base.
Yeah. So it's funny you say that, because I was talking to one of the hairdressers. I work a lot in the beauty industry, and I was talking to one of my hairdresser friends, and I shoot a big competition, and it's like, I can't get crazy with colors on that, because they're being judged off color work. They're being judged on everything. So if I go misrepresent all their work, like it's kind of,
like, what's art?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And they're like, no, that's my art. And that's how it's supposed to look. Exactly. And you're just supposed to document it. And that's kind of how I get in my own head in certain ways about not, every client's different. That one, I know I got to get the colors close to real life as possible. Yeah. And then, like my personal work, like we listen to Jack Cruz for an hour and a half, and then you don't see blue in any of my images for 2 months. And then, like, I'm so like, sporadic or whatever the word is there. But, I don't know. I just try to.
I think it's important. Like, it's really
video
important.
wise, I have a lot up my sleeve, though, editing wise.
That's what I'm saying. Like, and I think it's really, really important for people who are listening and like, thinking about their business in 2026. I think editing is becoming a very, very much more important thing than it was previously. Like before, if your images were good, your lighting was creative, and your composition was, a little bit creative, everything could be true to life, and that's fine.
Right.
It's really good. But now really the editing has to support the way you shoot. It's very important.
Right.
Clients are going for a certain editing look. And I do think that obviously there's a huge push for, film type stuff, 90s, very like nostalgic type stuff coming out, which is great. I freaking love it. I'm a 90s kid, man. Like, I was the guy that had, through my teenage years, I had either a Soundgarden shirt on or a Nirvana shirt on. Right. You know what I mean? That's my vibe. But like, I do think the extreme nostalgic, super green images, lots of grain, all that stuff, I don't think that that's going to be around forever in terms of weddings. I think that like there needs to be a happy medium in pulling from different inspirational looks, but doing it in a way that's still, I hate the word timeless, but it is.
Right. Yeah. Because wedding photos are something that, people have sometimes for 2-3 generations. It's, so exactly. If you don't want to date everything like a few years later, you know, with a trend that was just popular at the time. And then you look back or they look back because, you know what I mean? They're like, oh, this fucking guy was like,
he went hard with this.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, it's tough because, clients now, they're Zoomers, man, and they want stuff that is trending for sure. But there are pockets. Like I get my clients that come to me are normally a little bit more into photography from I don't want to say purist, but like they're into photography. So they know that they have an idea that something's trending. And they might want that too, but they don't want all that. You know what I mean? Like this perfect example is this engagement shoot I did the day before yesterday. Like the clients were awesome and they were like, they liked the film stuff. So I'm going to shoot some film with them. And they definitely like that nostalgic look, but they didn't want everything. So I mixed it up. Like you look at I was looking through the engagement shoot with photos after, and there was a perfect balance between like slow shutter speed, nostalgic, memory type feeling photos, and then sharpen and focus stuff. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that that's really important. But, you know, relying on just crazy editing isn't really enough. But also relying just on your composition, your lighting isn't enough.
Yeah, it's got to be a combination of both, especially when, you know, the oversaturation of work is there, but people are getting good too. There's a lot of
Dude, they're getting
better
so
photographers
good,
than there were. You know, there's just, if naturally, if you have 10 million more people shooting photos, you're going to have a few more good, you know what I'm saying? Like,
But
the
they're
sheer numbers game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, with the technology we got and everything, like if we had one of these cameras when we were kids, you know, I look at my girlfriend's daughter, she's almost 8, and she's like, she's a kid, she's a free thinker still, but she's always like, you know, creating foreground and like she's already knows what she's doing, but without knowing what she's doing.
Right.
And so like the kids are just more intuitive with all this stuff, and the more you feed them tools like this and computers and everything else, like you're creating the next generation of really good photographers. And a lot of them are out here working for $100 because they don't have a business yet. You know what I mean? So you're competing with like, not you and I, but you know, people in general. The market is like, there's a lot of good work out there. And,
there is, man. There is a lot of good work out there, and that's such a good point. Or both of us are kind of siloed because we have legitimate brands, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And we have legitimate businesses with a lot of track record and trust, not just from previous clients, but from other like vendors in the industry and just people who know us who are also running businesses.
Right.
That's a moat, but that moat doesn't last forever. So you can't just like rest on your laurels like, oh, like I've built up, you know, we're not like a coffee shop, you know, or we're not like selling furniture or something like that.
Right.
It's not like you come to prominence, people know you, and then you just kind of coast off that for the rest of until you retire.
Right.
Now it's like you got to really pay attention to what's going on out there, what people are putting out. And I never advocate for copying anybody. Definitely not. But you have to consume what's going on out there and the new trends. And not only, you know, I think that's what's more important than looking at what other people are doing in terms of photos. What is the music like? What's the popular culture in terms of like how people communicate now? Like what's the fashion trends? You know, things like that. Like that's where you ultimately like absorb, you know, the message of the generation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not just from photo, because you can see somebody who's rising to prominence in terms of like putting out photos and be like, okay, like how did they edit this? And like, you know, I'm going to remember to shoot like that next time. You can like one-off create photos like that, but you're not going to be able to like absorb the vibe of the new generation or the evolving photo landscape by looking at other people's work. You're going to have to get in more to the culture, you know, and the online stuff that's going on, like understanding memes, understanding what reels hit,
right?
You know, understanding what people are wearing and things like that. And just, you know, it's staying forever young, you know, like that's a good point. Yeah, that's a good way to say it. That's what I think, because then naturally you infuse the information that's coming in with what you already know.
Right.
And then you become more valuable and more dangerous because you and I have been shooting for a long time.
Yeah,
we already know all the skills in terms of like technicals.
Right. And you've had the last generation of culture, and then you have this generation of culture, and the older you get, the more information you're consuming. And like you just said, to your point,
But you can't consume it blindly.
Right.
And that's the thing, is if you can't stop the input of information into your brain. You're going to absorb as the days go on, the years go on, you're going to absorb more from what's going on around you. But the trick is to do it consciously about like, actually, what am I taking in? Where is the valuable inputs? Where are the ones I should ignore? And then using that to build off of your skills that you've already acquired, to change it, to have it as I see Perla as it's a living thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't like, you know, and this probably hurts me from a business perspective and why I have to sell harder to get those clients. But like, I feel like you go to my page and it's like, or my portfolio, my website, and it's not like it's not a pronounced style. There's a lot of different types of photos going on. Definitely the connection and the creativity and the intensity of the photos is there throughout. But you'll see, I go to a shoot sometimes and it's fucking bright.
Yeah.
And I'm shooting that way. You know, sometimes it's really colorful. Sometimes it's like probably 70% black and white photos. It just depends, you know? So I like the idea of a living brand, a living style that evolves with the inputs that are coming in from the culture.
Well, yeah, you also change too. Like you grow up, you change. You know, your style's gonna change. Everything. You know, just the way you look at the world's gonna change. You're not the same person you were 5 years ago, 10 years ago when you started this. So, all that goes into that factor of what you're saying, basically.
So important, man. Like I do think that there's still a lot of photographers out there that are kind of salty over the fact that they have to change. You know, or
that's every industry, right? Like you've got the old grumpy, like stuck in their way type of people in just about everything, I think, you know.
Yeah. But with art, it's like such a recipe for disaster, I feel like. Like you everybody I feel like is always looking for that point that they can coast with their work.
Yeah.
And they can just do stuff.
I don't think no artist can do that. You can't, well, I guess you could make a hit song and live off that forever, but like no one wants to do that. No artist wants to be that guy.
Well, I kind of do live in a fantasy of that where like I think about I could just form the perfect photography style. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then just I'm known for that. You know what I mean? Like that is kind of a fantasy in my head where it's like, but the reality is like as soon as anything stops flowing, that static water that you're talking about, as soon as that like comfort and predictability and reliability steps in terms of the photos, then the magic goes out of it. It's almost like the more chaotic and the more I feel like things are changing, I don't have a total grip on things, the better my work is.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
And it sucks though, because like at some point you just want to fucking chill.
Yeah.
Take a break.
Yeah. You know? Well, it's like the high pressure environments create, I don't know, it's just like, you know, pressure makes diamonds, right? So if you're just sitting there like coasting on the same techniques you've been using, even if people love it, you still don't feel good. I don't anyway. Like I'm glad they're happy, but I'm like, I don't even want to show anybody this. Right. Like the client's happy, but like,
I think that's the true test of it. Do I want to put this out in the world? Like, am I excited to like post this on my portfolio or make an Instagram post about this?
So
show it to the world.
It was in Rick Rubin's book that he said like, he said, pretend you're showing your art to somebody and all of a sudden you'll look at it so much different. So like if you're editing your gallery and you're like, okay, let me just picture sending this to them. What are they going to say? And now all of a sudden you're picking it apart and you're, you know what I mean? You're looking at it totally in a different light. Yeah. So there is something about like, once it gets released, once it's out there in the universe, like, you know,
it better be something you're proud of.
So if you practice that, you kind of catch a lot of those things I would have changed before it's too late.
Yeah, no, that's actually a really good way of looking at it because it's the truth, man. Like you really do have to think about everything from the client's perspective. This is one thing that I really have tough on with curating my
or even
my
me
work.
And you like pretend you're showing me the gallery. Like how am I going to judge you or vice versa? Like you know.
Yeah, curation is really important. That's one thing that I don't like about where I'm at in my career is I don't like the fact that my curation has to be so on point now because everything is so personal to me that like I do have a motivation pretty much to share everything. But now I have this other layer of something over my shoulder saying like, wait, does this fit in with what people who are paying you thousands of dollars are expecting?
Right.
You know what I mean? And so I find myself like taking images, maybe posting them in a set, and then like 30 minutes later coming back to be like, I need to remove that one and that one or something.
Yeah.
You know, so there's this other layer of extra curation that like I don't love. You know what I mean? But I know it's necessary, and at the same time, I don't not love it from a perspective of I feel like okay, I gotta organize my thoughts.
Yeah, go ahead.
This, right? This is not easy. Sometimes when I'm having a deep thought, I can't fucking articulate it. But I don't like feeling like I have to do it from bringing business in, right? I have to curate heavily. But at the same time, I do like the pressure it's putting on me to make sure when I go to a shoot, I have plenty of good work from all sets of that wedding to choose from for display.
Right.
You know what I mean? It puts a layer of pressure on me that I'm like, okay, this is good because it's like, I'm not going to rest on my laurels when I'm going in and shooting this wedding because I know that I have to present something. My audience is waiting for me to make a post that's a little bit better than last time.
Right.
You know what I mean? So there is that pressure, but at the same time, it's like, you know, there's an element of I got to pay the bills too. You know.
Yeah.
So I'm doing the creation for money, which, you know, isn't the way I like to be motivated.
Agreed. And that's back to that constant like tug of war in my head of like service provider, artist, you know, like let me just make them happy and then I'll let my creative outlet will be my stuff over here. And then you don't make time for that. And then you get burnt out because you're not, you know what I mean? I get burnt out over here because I'm not doing this over here. And so I was actually going to ask you, you know, like in the height of wedding season, like how do you not get burnt out? Because it's a very intense job for a few months. You know what I mean? Maybe more than a few months, but you get what I'm saying. There's like a lot, and I see it on you, and I'm like, oh man, I wonder how he does it because I get burnt out.
You know, wellness check on Will.
Yeah, right. Well, that day I called you, and your phone was off. We were like, oh shit,
yeah. Just me having visions of me driving the Tesla like straight from Mexico.
Right.
Fuck it. No, it's a good question, man. So
it's a cliche question, but it's information that people are going to need.
Oh, 100%, because everybody deals with this. So the way that I rely on my motivation and my new ideas, I rely on it from like a greater like source of creative energy coming in.
Right.
So I spend a lot of time trying to understand where I get and noticing where I get energy from. Okay. So I get a lot of energy from being outside in the sun, in nature, things like that. I feel like I'm almost recharged and like a new creative energy comes in if I'm regularly doing that. So when it starts to get nice out, dude, I'm outside. I'm doing things constantly that give me energy. If I feel tired, like that's a huge fucking warning sign for me.
Right.
Like I need to do things that fire me up. And then if I have energy, then I can always direct it into work and I don't get tired. So I'm constantly looking for things. I visualize a lot about upcoming shoots. I pray a lot. You know what I mean? And I'm not I would say like classically like, you know, religious or anything like that, but I use my sense of like a higher power as like the driver of like things that will give me energy.
Right.
So I'm in tune with like I'm in tune with like the outer world and how I'm interacting with it. And if like, oh, this makes me feel like shit or this makes me feel tired, I cut as much of it off as possible.
Right.
And then that kind of gets me through when things are like really, really boosted and like there's a ton of work going on. It's really one thing I love about this job is I like that push of energy and then the recharge.
Yeah.
I really like that. But the major catalyst for that is like when I'm in that recharge period, am I using it effectively? Am I just laying on the fucking couch and not looking at the computer and just not doing anything?
Right.
Because that's not going to make me feel better or give me energy for when I do have to, you know, hit the gas.
I feel like you're using like motivation and energy kind of interchangeable.
Yes.
Yeah, so
exactly. So energy, to me, the motivation comes from the amount of energy I'm feeling.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. If you're tired, you're not going to be motivated to do much.
Exactly. So like I constantly have to be putting myself in connection with things that give me energy. Mm-hmm. You know, and then that just kind of spills out because my number one focus in my life at this point is the brand. Like I want Perla to be a worldwide, worldwide recognizable brand, top of the line, cream of the crop, wedding industry brand, you know? And so that doesn't happen unless your peripheral life is also like supporting that.
Correct.
You don't get to turn it off.
No.
If you're going to be operating at that like high, if you want to be operating at that high of a level.
Right. I can't remember the name of the book. There's a great book about that though. Basically,
have you seen the Michael Jordan documentary?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Like, you know, I'm not
you
saying
got to carry that mentality
you have
through everything in life, not just your work. And there's The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. That's the book I was talking about, where like you do one thing and it leads to the next. You know what I mean? No one's going to be like, it's why you see fit people, like rich old guys. Most of them are like in shape, you know what I mean? Because they've kept the rest of their lives in check too. You know, it's like, it's rare that someone's outstanding at this, but the rest of their life's a mess. Like super successful with this, but they didn't care about their health or didn't care about, it's like when everything lines up, that's when the success comes.
It's like 70% of millionaires are married.
Yeah, well, there's no, yeah, I mean, finance guys will tell you that obviously that's a huge component in building wealth
That's what I'm
is
saying.
two incomes and being on the same page.
And that's
Or,
on their radar. It's
yeah,
like, it's not just what I do for bringing in paychecks. Everything has to support the type of man that can operate at that level
right.
with work. So like, say I get invited onto, a celebrity wedding. Say they ask me to shoot the Bezos wedding.
Yeah.
I mean, if my personal life's all fucked up, chances are I'm going to bundle that wedding, or I wouldn't even be able to show up for some reason.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, that's what I think a lot of people too are missing, like who want like crazy success with what they're doing. They're not realizing there's no wall, there's no barrier. You know, like you can maintain like an income and maybe scrape out some type of life.
Yeah.
If you want to keep a degenerate portion of your life going.
Yeah.
But like if you really want the top spot or you want to be mixing with those people, you got to be lined up, bro.
Right.
You can't be like I just shot this big networking event in Connecticut 2 weeks ago. Yeah, I think it was 2 weeks ago. But it was a big deal for me because there were a ton of high level planners that I'd never worked with, that I'm trying to build relationships with, other vendors that are doing major weddings that are above me. And they asked me to come down and shoot their event. It's like 100 people there. I mean, we walked in, me and Emilio walked in. It was like a fucking construction crew that was like setting this place up. I mean, there was furniture being brought in. There was stuff hanging from the ceilings. There was lighting being put in. And, I'm responsible for not only the good photos of the gift, but I'm responsible for all the photos there for all these other vendors. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
I can relate to that 100%. Doing large scale events,
dude,
like
it's
you come
so
in
much
and there's
pressure.
forklifts running around and everything, and
it's
I'm
like,
the only
I'm the
staff
only photographer.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what? Like, so not only that, but then I had all this additional pressure of there was like 15 planners that I would love to work with. They're all looking at me like, okay, this is the first time we've seen Will on site. Like, what's he like? Not only what is he like, but what's the photos going to be like at the end. And so I can't go into something like that if my whole life isn't kind of like lined up to.
Well, no, if you're fighting with your girlfriend or something, no one's going to bring
I
their
can't tell
A
the
game.
truth.
You know what I mean?
I'm a fucking liar, or I'm just, I'm, doing drugs all day or whatever. Like I'm drinking too much.
Right.
Like all those things are ultimately not going to serve where I'm going. So like, it goes back to the energy question. How do I keep it all together and stuff like that? Well, I'm trying to line my life up, and I'm not perfect. I'm not a fucking saint, but like I'm really trying to like examine all the areas of my life where I could be improving, and then just having that improved for the ultimate goal. The ultimate star is Perla Images on top of the world.
Right.
And I don't know if I'll ever get there, but like that's the road I'm on.
Right. It's worth trying.
And it's worth trying, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you something else, just as we were thinking about the end of the year wrap up and things like that. And, we've done a handful of weddings at least this year together. And what I've noticed is like, sometimes you got incredible venues and incredible flowers and DJs that are super helpful and planners, but a lot of times that's not the reality of it. If someone's trying to build a portfolio, a wedding portfolio, and the only weddings they're able to get are sort of lower end weddings with, no real decor, no real planner that's on site, like a DJ that's not communicating when there's a, dance or whatever. Like, what do you focus on? What should they be focusing on? Like, what's in their control on a wedding day that they can, you still use like those less than perfect scenarios to get shots that are still portfolio worthy. Like, how do you grow? Because it's tough when you can't just jump into high, you know where I'm going with this. So
yeah, 100%. It's the best question ever, right? Because my whole timeline with weddings is like, I came in, I kind of made a splash in the beginning because I got in at a time where there wasn't a lot of people doing like creative lighting stuff and like intense, especially not in my area. And so I was kind of the guy, Perla was like you want like really like intense photos, like cool lighting, hire us, right? And so those are obviously lower end weddings at first, and I had to bring an element of style and real emotion into the portraits. That's really where I kind of cut my teeth in my differentiation, was lighting and doing portraits in a really creative way.
Right.
There was no decor. You know what I mean?
It's not about the location.
It's not about the location as much. You know, sometimes you would have a couple creative photos that were really highlighting a cool location or something like that. But even if it was a good location, aesthetic, there's nothing really supporting it. You know, there's not a lot of florals or design or anything like that. Everything's basic. So the difference for me was really focusing on creative portraits and lighting. And so I was able to create a portfolio that looked more elevated than the weddings actually were.
Right. So
Okay.
that's the goal of what I was asking is how does what you're answering. I'm just saying, yeah,
Right.
that's what I'm asking is
So
how
you
does,
have to, so you have to go in there and be like, okay, like what am I working with here? What can I do? If you walk in somewhere and it's like a barn with like no florals, no design, nothing, you're really going to have to start focusing on creative light and creative composition with the people.
yeah, like you said, emotion, things
Yeah,
like
like really emotion, like going in with a predetermined feel that you're going for, and is just much more pre-thought out stuff. Like this networking event I did down in Connecticut, there was a shitload of vendors. Everything looked amazing. So it was really the pressure came from not how am I going to like make good photos, but more of like how am I going to like make sure everything's covered correctly, and then put my sauce on it too. But everything was kind of already there. The looks were kind of there.
Yeah.
So now, so what you got to do is you got to elevate. You got to make something look a little more dramatic, and the connection has to be there. And you got to do something differentiation with either composition or lighting. And then you have to take that, and then you have to hunt down the other high level vendors, namely planners.
Right.
And like planners aren't just going to talk to you, man. The networking event down in Connecticut last week, I had been talking to planners down there through DMs and emails for a year prior to them inviting me down for the first test shoot.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's a long process, bro, of getting these people to trust you.
Right. It's back to like what I always say is like it's a networking game. Like I've done zero traditional marketing, and it's just because I did enough favors, know enough people. You know, I've been planting
hands.
seeds everywhere. You know, that's the name of the game. And
Yeah.
it's tough. It's tough to, you know, especially like if there's gatekeepers or there's whatever, you know, a lot of people.
Dude, there is in any industry.
Right, for sure.
And I thought it was like when I first came into weddings, I thought literally, bro, like it's just about the work. Like
Nothing's just about the work.
nothing's just about the work, man. Like it's really not, especially when people are paying you 5 figures to show up. It's the work is just like it's I was noticing this, right? As my prices have gone up, my ability to collect reviews has gone down. I still get a lot of good, you know, reviews, but it wasn't like every single wedding the first like 4 or 5 years was like bam, 5-star review every single time, right? But it was like as the price has gone up, people just expect a good service and they just expect good photos. So they're like, oh, like yeah, it looks great. That's what I paid for.
Yeah, right. Yeah, thanks for doing your job.
Yeah, thanks for doing your job. You know what I mean? So I think once you get to that level where like, okay, I have a style, like I know how to light things, you know, people are happy with their photos, then it becomes a game of, okay, how do I differentiate myself and then present that to the gatekeepers in this industry that can give me a shot because they believe in me. You got any questions?
Will in the house, good to see you. No,
Just some friendly comments.
What's up, dog? Who's that? What's the name of him?
Trevor Smith.
Trevor, what's up, man? Yeah, good to see you guys in the chat. We definitely want you guys to throw in questions. Anything you guys are thinking about, gear-related stuff, what we're using, you know, how we're running things. Anything for John. John's super knowledgeable on video stuff with gear and cameras and all that too. So just make sure you guys throw that in the chat.
what was I going to ask you? Something.
One thing I'm going to touch on this at every live stream is I want people to submit photos. I really want to start reviewing photos live on the channel.
All right, so we need a place for them to send them either while they're watching live or.
So I'm pretty sure, guys, if you guys are listening, I'm pretty sure my email's on the like about or info tab on my channel. But if not, it's monochromaticmemoirs@gmail.com. Monochromaticmemoirs@gmail.com. So you guys can fire them off into that email, and I want to be able to bring stuff up and kind of go over it, answer any questions you guys have, even portfolio reviews. You guys can send links to your portfolios. John and I can go through and look at that live on stream. There's a lot of different, you know, areas. If you guys just want any tips about anything, us to touch on certain topics, throw that in the chat or send us an email about that too, and I'll bring it up. Because now we're gurus, right? We're photography gurus.
I'd like to think I know a thing or two anyway.
We do know enough that we can guide people for sure to a certain level, but ultimately, I always say this too. It's like success is so nebulous, and it's so like you can't really. It's not a physical, like fully formed thing that you can kind of just touch and repeat. Goes differently. The road is different for everybody, and a lot of times, I don't even know what the hell I'm doing on site. I'm relying on just kind of like my unconscious ability to do things.
Right.
You know what I mean? For years of work. So, I think that any true profession or true craft gets to that point. It evolves to that point first. You got to learn the fundamentals. You got to learn all those technicals, and you got to learn how to use your cameras and your gear and what you're going for, and how to learn different techniques. But eventually, you got to wade out in the water by yourself.
Right.
You know? Start to rely on yourself and your instinct.
Yeah. So I agree. Couldn't agree more. But what are you planning for 2026? Like, what are you going to do different? What are we taking out of 2025 and bringing into 2026?
So 2026,
you got a new assistant, you got things like that. So
yes. So I got the new assistant. I got Amelia. She's great. We're going to bring her up to speed for sure. And I'm going to teach her a lot. She's going to be a completely different photographer by the end of this upcoming season. I'm definitely going to focus heavily on my editing and my curation. Okay. I need to deliver less photos in the galleries. Like I deliver too many, I've noticed, because almost like it's easier to throw 1,000 photos up in Lightroom that are ready to edit and just bang through them. When in reality, you need to think about the storyline a little bit more.
right.
You know what I mean? I don't ever really think I should be delivering more than 900 photos.
That's a shit ton.
That's a fucking shit ton, but that is, if you're shooting a 10-hour day,
Yeah, it's
almost 100 an hour. You know what I mean? So I think if I could get for a full day, 10 hours, I could get 900 photos. I think that's good. For an 8-hour, 700 photos, which would be like good. I think that's a good amount because, you have a lot of family formals and things like that. A lot of decor photos, detail stuff. But last year, I was really delivering like 8-hour, coverage. I was delivering like an average of like 1,000 photos. It's just too many.
yeah. That's a lot. I mean,
But the curation takes a lot of thought, man.
oh, absolutely. Yeah. I deliver probably about 700 to 1,000 on like a multi-day
That's what I'm
event,
saying.
And
Right.
so I'm more cautious, but then I find I end up kind of sending them, again, it's repeat clients. So I'll end up sending them more like later on as I revisit, some of those shots. And I think that's just because I find like, what good are the photos sitting on my hard drive? Like they're better at least that they have them, whether they want to use them, they use them. They're not great photos. You can always use them for marketing material, whether they just be, slap text over them or whatever. But it's a lot of things that I don't deem valuable that they might. And I'm like, why are they sitting on a drive? So I'm with you when I do try to over deliver, but that's a lot of photos from one day.
Bro, it's a fucking shitload, man. And it just, it now that where I'm at, it's more about my storytelling ability, Like that's really the main focus here is like, how do I say more with less? And more impact with every single image. That's why I'm really intentional now about like, what goes up on my portfolio and my website and all that stuff. I'm really trying to think about it, the message.
Right.
And I don't like one thing, the reason why I kind of realized this with the curation and how important it is because over the course of sales this year, I've spoken to I've gone on sales calls and sent full galleries to a couple clients who I lost. And I think it was because the galleries they were so packed and they were for those specific clients that hired me that there was just so many good photos that got lost in the mix.
Right.
That it became a little too cluttered for like a sales presentation. And I feel like every gallery that I deliver should be tightened and locked up to a point where I could send that out for somebody that's trying to hire me.
Right.
And just look at this.
Agreed. Like you don't have to curate something
I don't have to
specifically for them, for a potential client, which I catch myself doing a lot because I work in so many different areas where it's like, that's kind of why I separated Instagrams from some beauty content to some music content, because I don't need people digging through my personal stuff to try to find what they're looking for. So it's not the most feasible thing. I mean, efficient thing is the word I was looking for, but to curate content to send to every potential client.
Right.
But it's really not everyone. It's just the ones that I think are going to be valuable. But somebody in here says, Pat, I think it was, lately I've been feeling stuck and unable to make progress like I used to. I'm considering whether I should hire a mentor or mentorship. I don't know whether he's struggling with business or just progression in the artistic side of things.
Yeah, Pat, if you could kind of elaborate, are you struggling with like your style, or are you struggling with getting more clients in, and what type of work do you do?
So he says, I want to concentrate more on my storytelling and add more depth to my photos. So there's, exactly the same question still kind of stands. Maybe it sounds like maybe it's an artistic hurdle.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. It sounds like an artistic hurdle, and this is the stuff that I go through every single year at the end of the year. I look back on what I did, and I'm like, okay, what were the strengths here and what were the weaknesses? Because there's always things at the close of every season that need to be enhanced, and like you need to build on that, and there's also fat that needs to be cut away.
Right.
And so you really have to get critical with like, what are you proud of in your work, right? Like, what is it? All goes back to energy. I'm telling you, everything goes back to energy. Like, not only like, if you don't have the energy of wanting to do more when you look at your work, or you look at some work and it does give you like energy to go out and like, I fucking want to do that again. Or if you have stuff you look at and you're like, man, that was such a pain in the ass drag. I want to forget about that wedding. You got to start to parse through that stuff and figure out where that line of energy is.
Right. That's a very good
It's
call.
really, really important. Energy is always, and I'm not talking about just good vibes. I'm talking about like literal energy that like will get you out of bed in the morning, that type of energy. Where is that? Because that doesn't go away, but it can get obscured or like, kind of hidden for a while. It's always there. Like, and so I feel like the motivation and the inspiration is so important to always be connected to. And it's not a straight line for me, but I'm very aware of like when I'm deviating off of it and that energy is starting to diminish. And then I'm looking to recalibrate.
And how do you recalibrate? Is it just like you said, going outside or something like that?
It's nature. It's definitely like, the connection to the higher power type deal. I have to feel a sense of like the creative energy coming into me. And I don't do it by looking and consuming more work. Definitely do not. I look at it more as like spending more time with myself. I read a lot, different types of genres. Like sometimes I'll read like, I'll be on a psychology kick or something like that, but then I'll start to read like horror books. Yeah. Stuff to get my imagination going in different areas. I'll go to art museums. That's great. Kind of work in that area. Dude, if I'm feeling burned out, like I'll take a vacation. Yeah. Something like that. Spend more time outside, like I said. You really have to get away. If you're not feeling the motivation, you're kind of scrambling, looking for inspiration somewhere, and like looking at photographers' work and, how do I get something that's cool and different? Dude, you got to separate all that and go inside. Right. And start to understand, like, why am I, like, where's the lack of motivation coming from? And, like, where do I feel like I'm energized? Because I'm telling you, it's like the brain, it's like when it's on fire it could be something totally unrelated to art, but if you're feeling like powered up, dude, it's gonna start going into creative endeavors. It's gonna start filtering out. But when you're tired and you feel like shit, dude, like the volume gets turned down on everything. So yeah, I would say like start to turn inside and start to understand like what gives you motivation just to like do anything, and then start to go connect with those things that start to make you feel energized and feel good. And then you can start to look for inspiration in the art world.
That's a great answer. He's got a little more insight here. Hold on.
I have a good business with paying clients and peers appreciate my work. However, it often feels like I am repeating the same trick repeatedly and I think he means either can or can't. I can create award-winning photos, but to me, they lack depth and do not tell a story. So there's a couple things there, right? Like, are they good? Are you just hard on yourself? Because that's something I do all the time, where I'm just like, I don't feel like I got anything good. I don't think I got anything good, and I'm not breaking any ground. Then you get home and you start looking at stuff, and you're like, all right, this ain't so bad, So mentorship's always a good idea. First off,
I totally agree with that. Mentorship is always a really good idea. I am a big advocate of people that you do respect their work and you feel like you can connect to them on like a conversational level. That I feel like that is a good, but you just got to be, you have to really discern. I wouldn't just hire anybody. I would just really make sure that if you're going to hire a mentor, it's actually somebody who's, you know, I hate to, but they're expensive enough where they can create time for you.
right.
And there's actual communication.
And
going
they've
on.
done what you're trying to do.
And they've really done what you're trying to do. They're not, there's a real track record there. I think that that's a good idea, but also too, you got to understand that like the sense of meaning in your life and what you're doing ultimately comes from aligning what's going on inside you. Like you have to start to create things that are in line with your real motivations from your personality. And like, that doesn't mean that like, if you have a completely different style than what you're currently getting hired for, that you need to break away from that because we all have to pay the bills. You have to start, like for me, perfect example, right? I was like a punk rock kid when I was a kid. You were too, right?
Yep.
So I was a punk rock kid. I used to listen to like, you know, punk music, a lot of heavy metal shit, like, you know, big ass mohawk. I was a skater, all that. The music that I listened to from that era really connects like a deep part of my personality.
Yeah.
So when I'm feeling like disconnected from like creating and stuff, I go back to like that stuff that I used to be inspired by when I was really young.
Yep.
And that gives me a sense of connectedness to ideas. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it all goes back to connecting to like who you really are. Because like we had a conversation about this, I think last week. It's like when you come into the world, you have like a certain set of just things that you're naturally drawn to that really align with your personality.
Right.
Right. And those aren't there because of somebody, you know, like a layer of like persona you built that you know, I'm this type of person, so I have to be interested in this sort of, it's just natural, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that never goes away. You just get like different layers of your personality built up on top of that, right? Different experiences. You dig through those layers and get back to those original motivations that really made you like your eyes light up and like gave you a sense of wonder. That shit never goes away, man. And so that's what I do. I go back to that old music that I used to listen to as a kid. And I think about like what type of person I was, you know what I mean? And like, it's all inside, man. Like if you're in a rut, like the real inspiration never comes from the outside. It always comes from like getting aligned with like how you're feeling inside. Right.
Right. I couldn't agree more. I read a lot, and that's usually what gets me. I guess motivated is the word, but you get inspired, motivated. It just gets me like in the zone to go. And I watch a lot of like stuff on YouTube. It's like, you know, you back to skateboarding. Like used to watch a skate video and like you want to go skate.
Yes.
Like I watch a lot of like photo people I love on YouTube, and I want to go shoot pictures like right after. You know, like I'm like so that shit gets me fired up. Just to, I mean, it doesn't. I don't know if it's gonna necessarily answer that question, but it's tough to stay motivated like that, and I find that stuff helps me like a ton. Is like watching people like, you know.
That's what I mean. But so the whole point of it is you know where you can like there's like a ripcord, like a you got a parachute. Like if you know I'm not getting inspiration from anywhere, you know you can go to a certain couple of places to start to feel connected again. That's what I do too. I do that with my, you know, the old school music I used to listen to and just, you know, whatever. And nature is a big thing. For me. Getting out in nature is a huge fucking thing.
You get out of your own head.
Dude, you get out of your own head.
Us doing it to ourselves. Like I said, I don't know, maybe he's just really hard on himself. If, you know, if he actually thinks both of those things are true, like I can create award-winning photos, but I also feel like I'm lacking, you know, depth and storytelling.
Well, this is the artist's dilemma too.
Yeah, well, some people are like, it's hard to get one shot to tell like a story. Like when you get a set, it's a lot easier to tell a narrative, you know, with 10 photos than it is with one. It's a lot easier to get your point across if you can use a full sheet of paper versus one line. So, but
think about it, right? Even from that's such a good point. Like, have you heard of the wedding photographer John Dolan?
No.
Okay, so he's like OG in the wedding photography. He's still shooting. He's probably in his late 50s, maybe like early 60s even, and he's at the top of the game, dude. Like he's like a legend because he used to, you know, he really just kind of like, if you looked at his work right now, you probably wouldn't be too impressed. But if you looked at it in the context of like what wedding photography was like back in the 80s, like when he was doing it, like you'd be like, well, shit, like this is different. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so he's been able to kind of rise. And his whole thing is, yeah, he'll shoot and the clients will get like 700 photos, digital images, but he delivers 15 prints in a box, right? Print it out, put them in a box, 15 images that he feel like really sum up that whole wedding.
Right.
15 images, man, are the ones that he's super proud of that tell the real story.
Right.
So what was his name?
Pat, I believe.
Pat. So listen to this, right? Think about that. If you do weddings, think about it that way. Like there's 15 images out of 700 that are really the ones that connect and tell the story.
Yeah, I usually have like 5 that
That's
I'm
what I'm
like
saying.
that I think are like the ones that
I was listening to one of his interviews, and like he how he does it is he's got the box, he brings it over there, and they just pop a bottle of wine or whatever, and just like look at the photos together. And the clients are always like after he's like, yeah, you'll have the other 700 coming like in an email or whatever, and they're like, oh, there's more. That's what I mean. There's 15.
like the story had been told already.
The story
right
is
there.
already told, man. So like, don't think, and I go back and forth with this too. Like, don't think that every fucking photo has to be like an amazing work of art that you shoot. It'll never be like that.
Right.
You got to be less hard on yourself too to be like, okay, like as long as I'm feeling like lined up, I'm feeling motivated, and I'm feeling like I have a message, which you get from, like I said, more going internally. And me, I think I'm always going to be an advocate of getting out there in that nature and spending time, like leaving your phone in the car, spending time soaking that energy up, which is the fucking source of life, the sun, you know what I mean? And all the energy and the natural creative force that's growing up all around us, getting in the middle of that, you can start to get lined up with that message and what you want to convey.
Right.
Getting in touch with yourself. And then when you go into it, bro, not every photo has to be a banger.
Yeah.
Literally, not every photo has to be a banger. Think about it from that. John Dolan, on the top of his game, he delivers 15 that are really meaningful.
Yeah. No, I totally can see that, because that's how I feel anytime I do a full day shoot or something. There's 10, 5 to 15, somewhere maybe 20 if you're real lucky, that I even feel are like
Worthy.
strong, Yeah. And I forget who it was. Somebody said you get like there's like a tier of like photos that you get throughout your lifetime, and like great photographers, if they get one of like those photos that are what they're shooting for their whole life,
Like
they're
that should
happy.
be
Like,
printed massively and hung on a wall.
well, like one that like maybe rewrites history, if we're being drastic, or something that is just like at the top of the top, where like you're not going to get another one of those in your life, like and then there's another tier of like you get maybe 10 of these photos in your life. I forget who it was, but it opened me up to like thinking about how how to actually judge my own work too. Like, is this as good as I think it was? Like, sometimes I had a great time at that shoot, so I feel like those images are better.
Yeah.
And I'm like, everyone else doesn't have the attachment to that time and place, and that's huge with events for me is, like I want to capture the energy in the room, and if you're not there, I hope that you can get that same energy from the images, but it's very tough to do, and you're not doing that with 100 photos in a day.
Absolutely
That's for sure.
not. And what you just said is exactly the essence of what good photography is. If you can make photos that communicate, good photography is about communication. Your photos should translate feelings of whatever was there in a way that translates out to other people. Sometimes I'll look at a photo that's like good from like a, I don't know, from like a, what's the right word here? Like a spectacle perspective. Like, oh, they did some like crazy shit here with like the lighting, and this is a wild photo. And like, you can tell like you had to be a skilled photographer to take that, but I don't feel anything.
Right.
And I don't really like that photo. I'd much rather something that I feel, and then you get that because you go into the shoot lined up inside with like a motivation and an energy. And then you're very good on the day of soaking up and getting into the real energy of that day. Because then it's just automatically translate.
Right.
But if you're like trying to separate yourself from like when you're on a shoot, right? You should have a massive smile on your face.
Yeah.
Like if people around you are happy.
Right.
If you are on a shoot and like everyone's like crying and like wicked, like sad about something, you should feel that too. And so like if your emotions aren't changing with like what's the energy in the room, then your photos are not going to translate.
Correct.
That's your barometer.
For sure. He said, I feel the imposter syndrome quite strongly. And again, that's something I feel like a lot of people deal with.
Okay.
That can stem from many things. Yeah,
I'm gonna fucking drop a truth on you that no one wants to admit, right? Is nobody knows what the fuck they're doing.
Yeah.
Nobody knows what the fuck they're doing when it comes down to it.
Like we were talking about how we watch experts all the time on YouTube, and we're like, the guy's fucking wrong about that. He's, it's like no one knows what the hell they're doing. We're all just out here having a good time.
We're all just out here having a subjective experience.
Right.
That's really what it is. So like the imposter syndrome, trust me, I get it. But in reality, it's all bullshit because what happens is, I think we talked about this in the last one too, is the way that the world works is nobody knows what they're doing. Somebody randomly strikes gold with like an idea, and then everybody tries to copy them.
Right.
That's what it is. So people just pop up. They look like geniuses, but it's like there's so much luck and randomness that goes into all of this, man.
Yeah, now luck, randomness, and algorithms.
Right.
It's like everything's got to line up.
You just got to get, am I a photographer or am I not? Is this my life calling or is it not? And if the answer is yes, from deep within you, then you are that.
Yeah, you're not an imposter.
You're not an imposter.
Right.
Exactly. And like, I don't care how together somebody has it looking on the exterior. They're still just trying to figure it out, just like everybody else.
Yeah, we had talked about this too, where I used to think if I only level up and I work with a bigger brand, like they'll have their shit together and then my work will be better because everyone will be more organized and I'm not just showing up trying to do everything.
There's an element.
Not the case.
There's an element.
Sometimes, but like the biggest brands sometimes still, like unless you're doing, within reason, I'm talking here, like a lot of them don't have their shit together either on shoot day or something. Like,
yes.
some of the bigger ones, obviously, if you're shooting for Coca-Cola, like they're going to have a creative director that you've been in touch with for weeks and they're going to be present. You know, it's like, so brands like that, yes. But I've worked with some big brands that you would think would be ready and they're not.
Yeah, they have their shit together.
No, they're not.
But it's a very good point, right? And ultimately, the bigger you get, the bigger your events, you're going to have more vendors and people responsible for their area of work so you can just focus on yours.
Right.
But like, dude, you look at all the like amazing movies that have been made and like the stories behind so many of the amazing pieces of art that were creative. And it's just all like the most random things had to come together for that to be made.
Right.
It's like everybody's an imposter. They're just being driven by the information that they've taken in and what they feel inside. That's it.
Everyone is. That's a good way to say it.
Everybody's driven by that, dude. So I get the imposter syndrome, but in reality, you're not an imposter.
Right.
You're not.
Unless you really don't feel any of that within you. And
right.
You're just doing this. And then even then, like, are you an imposter just because it's a job? Like, there's different. We talked to Albert Watson about this, where, like, yeah, you can make a good living, like, doing what I was talking about over here, just commercially driving, like, delivering things to clients. Like, you can make a great living doing that, but that's not, like, the artist within any of us. Right. But is that imposter just because it's like a...
No, I think it just comes down to being honest about, like, what your motivations are. Like, it's all an internal game, man. Like
right.
All of this, whether it's work or like relationships or just fucking anything. It's all about like, what's the story that you're telling yourself inside? Because I'll tell you what, like what I've learned out of my 43 years on this earth, dude, is like the most important thing is to reduce internal conflict. That's really what it is, man. Like you can't be walking around constantly conflicted inside about like things.
And yeah, I needed to hear that because I'm constantly like,
it's toxic, man.
It is, but it's constant. And I think sometimes you just need a break too. Well,
the world, and sorry to cut you off, right? Ahead. But the world has this message that everybody you have to be perfect. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like there's this overarching message that like things need to be perfect. And things need to be done a certain way. And like, the reality is like, everybody's got light and dark inside them. And like, everybody wants to pretend like they don't have darkness. Mm-hmm. And they want to pretend like they got all their shit together. And they want to pretend like, things aren't out of control in certain areas. But dude, like, you got to start to accept the good and parts, your strengths and your weaknesses. And like, hold both of those inside you in a way that's just like, this is who I am. I'm a mishmash of things. and like not have things fighting each other. You know, because that's where like that neurotic anxiety, overanalyzing everything, and then the shit that you put out is just dead, dude.
Agreed.
Not full of life.
Agreed.
Look at the most amazing people in history. They're all fucking crazy. You know, they've all done insane things. You know what I mean? But it's like, you know what the common thread with all of them is? They just accepted who the fuck they were.
It's true.
You know, I saw this picture. Sorry, I knew you were going to say
No,
something.
no, go ahead.
I saw this video the other day. I was just scrolling reels on Instagram, and it's like Ozzy Osbourne was like invited to like when George Bush was president. He was like at this presidential thing, like this big, you know, gala thing, and they like George Bush is up there like tonight. You know, we have Ozzy Osbourne. Everyone's going crazy and stuff. He was like, you know, people like literally were like protesting everything he did. He wasn't allowed to perform in certain countries because they thought he was a Satanist. And he's like, you know, he's doing cocaine like constantly. He's the most out of control person ever. But Ozzy was who he was.
Right.
And he accepted himself for who he was. And like, he's like, this is the good I can do in the world. And this is the shit you got to deal with.
These are the rooms you should keep me out of.
This is
and
the
these are the
rooms
ones I should be in.
And people loved him for it. You know what I mean?
I think I don't.
He wasn't
think
walking around being like, "Oh, I gotta like pretend that I'm not so fucked up," and like I gotta.
And that internal conflict back to our work is like, I do that or was doing that a few years ago more with, I don't want to put this on my Instagram because this client's looking at that. And that's that inner conflict of like, is that you're not being who you are because you're scared that someone who might pay you is going to see that. And it changes everything. So I understand. And I felt like you were talking to me because I've dealt with a lot of those inner, you know, less
everybody else. Me too.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I'd say less nowadays, but there's always that, like, you know, am I doing enough? You know, is this the right way to go about it? What if this person sees it? And hard to be yourself in a world where my personality and my work they're kind of meshed. You know what I'm saying? Like,
dude, I know exactly what you're saying. And it kind of goes to the fact of like, say you're this personality type, right? Where you're good at this, but you're also a lazy motherfucker in like all these other areas, right? But you have like this sense that like I should be perfect. You know what I mean? That's going to create like an insane divide inside you. You're going to be walking around all the time being like, well, I know I have the ability because I can do this well, but then I can't motivate myself to do all the rest of the stuff. Why don't you just accept that that's the balance of you personally,
right? And
focus on your strengths and not try and beat yourself up for all the, you know, things that aren't fully developed. Like, you know, you can try and work on them and things like that.
Right.
But like, I'm not going to.
They don't make you a piece of shit.
Right. They don't make you a piece of shit. And I'm not going to walk around like criticizing myself all day, you know, and being like, I'm an imposter because like I can do this, you know, part of the work well, but I can't do this. So like, or I have trouble with this. So that means that I'm not being honest to the world.
Right. Or that means I'm not a real photographer or whatever. Like,
right. And I get it. I do
too.
So, but you got to really think of it like that as like, dude, everybody's an imposter, you know, to a certain degree. Like no one.
You can always see that side if you look hard enough. You can find that.
Always.
You know,
always a chink in the armor, dude.
Yeah. And the anxiety that causes is insane. And I constantly deal with I should be doing more type of thing, you know, and not letting myself reset or anything. Like, I find vacations great for that. I come back fired up to work because I just feel like I'm behind everybody. Everyone else was working all week and I was whatever on the beach or something. Yeah. So that is a reset that I mean, not everyone can just up and take a vacation, but
it's the truth. It's the truth, man.
But
and
just maybe go outside, like you said. Maybe.
For me, it's nature.
I think and your brain works differently when your phone is at home versus, dude,
like,
you know, not just
away
like
from off your
on
body.
silent. Yeah. Like unable to access at the moment, you know, because you totally think differently.
You need to be forced into the moment. What the phone does is it pulls us outside. It pulls us outside of ourselves.
It really does.
That's what it does.
Yeah.
You need to be in the moment. And I'm not like a Buddhist or whatever, but they have it right in terms of the fact that like, there's never going to be a time where your life isn't right now.
Right.
Like, this is all we have is like right now. Okay?
Yep.
When you think about it, it's fucked up. So, like, you got to be here now as much as possible.
You got to learn to enjoy being here now.
You got to learn to enjoy, not be like this, like, what else am I missing or like that. Like, because ultimately, the ideas and the creative energy, it isn't really up to you. You can only just get in the flow of it and then be like, hey, like, I hope a good idea comes.
Yeah, you're just like channeling.
You're channeling
these ideas and they're coming out through you. There's They're never really yours.
They're never yours,
Yeah.
bro. That's such a good way to put it. I'm not like, I'm not one of those photographers that's like, thinking, oh, dude, it's all about me. Like, I did this work. I really have a sense that like the shit's coming in just because I have an ability to kind of get in the flow of it.
Right. And somebody says you need healthy light too. Shout out to the Cruise interview. Very true. Very true.
Jack Cruz would be pissed if he saw the lights that we have right
Yeah. The first thing I said to Will when I got those like the Meta Ray-Bans and I was making all these POV videos and I was like, oh, don't like Jack would fucking roast
Jack
me
would
if I knew I had a
roast.
Wi-Fi device on my face.
It's true, man. It's got to be a balance, but yeah, we do spend a lot of time outdoors in natural light too. So,
But
well, that was good, man. You want to wrap it up?
yeah, I'm good.
Any
Thank
other
you
questions?
guys. Yeah, we had I don't know why the chats weren't popping up on our screen, but I can see them over here on the other one. So we are in touch with all of you. Feel free to,
Yeah.
leave a chat whenever, even if you don't see them on the screen. But we're
Yeah,
gonna maybe get a phone number or something too. Maybe we'll take some calls or something because us going back and forth with Pat was kind of eye opening to me to be like, okay, we need like a direct line of communication because there's a delay on the live streams. So, we're getting off track before he comes back with an answer or whatever. So I think it'd be nice to like
Get a phone set up.
yeah, just have like
I
a
like
number
that.
to call or something.
Yeah, that would be cool. We could chop it up with you guys. So we'll work on getting a phone set up. We want, but I keep harping on, dude, send photos, questions, monochromaticmemoirs@gmail.com. Send those in because we want portfolio reviews, anything. We've seen a lot. And if you respect our opinion, we'll tell you the honest truth with it. So,
Yeah, send in like even if it's just a favorite photo you took in 2025.
Yeah,
that'd
or
be
this week.
That'd be a good start.
Whenever.
Yeah, whenever. But
Yeah.
it's nice to wrap up a year. Everyone's sort of reflecting on what they did, what they're proud of, and I know for me, some of those are starting. They're like on the front of my mind right now. So
maybe we can even bring in a couple of ours that we're really proud of.
yeah,
You know,
that would be
throw those
interesting. And I don't think like mine would be anything that. Not
You
anyone
keep
else's
saying
favorite.
that,
You know what I
bro.
mean?
Stop
No,
saying that.
not good. But like my favorite isn't gonna be like the one that got the most likes. That's for sure. You know what I'm saying?
I don't
Anyway,
know.
That's a topic for another day. But
Yeah, we'll see what you bring to the table. But that's a good idea to bring some of our work too. So, but yeah, more questions, and we're gonna keep doing these live streams. We like how like the chats. So.
yeah. Alrighty, guys. Thanks.